Spontaneous speaking video 48. So I just got out of church service. Actually, they're having the second service today. LU Praise sang at TRBC, Thomas Road Baptist Church. And Pastor Johnathan Falwell, preached a very good message from the book of 3rd John, literally the book. It's like the shortest book in the Bible, and it only has one chapter. But he pulled a lot from that, and today I not only learned a few things from his sermon, but I also learned a few things from just observing everyone else. And so from 3rd John, pretty much it speaks of three people, according to what Jonathan was saying or showing today. In 3rd John, he was pretty much saying, are you a Gaius, which is from verse 1 through verse 8, or a Diotrephes? That even sounds bad. It sounds like catastrophe or something, which is spoke about from verse 9 through verse 11. And then you have someone to emulate, which was Demetrius, which is in verse 12. And pretty much like you guys should just actually go through and read that those verses on your own and kind of get your own interpretations. I'm not really going to go too deep into that because I am sort of crunched with time. But I just wanted to make this video. I felt a very huge urgency to make this video because something that I noticed in churches a long time ago, and I've been continuing to notice, but today it was just so blatantly clear to me, and it really just irritated me to an extent that I was like, okay, yeah, I have to make a video on it, is that oftentimes we tend to falsely victimize ourselves. And this applies to me as well. So I'm not attacking anyone specifically over here, but I just want by the end of this video for everyone to now think not only twice, but 3 times, maybe even 4 times before they start saying, yeah, this message is for my neighbor. Let's see if it's for you first. You know what I mean? So pretty much today when Pastor Johnathan was speaking, then he was speaking about Gaius. He called him Gaius. I don't know what his name was, but I think his name was Gaius. And Gaius was known as a man that, was about his business, that was always encouraging others, that was always kind to other people, like someone that you could actually look up to. And John was encouraged to hey, look at Gaius, he's a really good guy, and he's a great example of what a Christian should be like, what a Christian should look like, stuff like that. And as Pastor Johnathan was preaching this, then I naturally I like to observe how it's being received by those around me. And I was sitting with a lot of other students, and I kept on seeing, I'm not pointing out just one person, I kept on seeing a few people going yeah, stuff like that. But then we get over to Diotrephes. And apparently Diotrephes is the type of guy that he was spreading gossip, that, he was doing, actually, let me actually read at least that verse for you guys. This guy was pretty much a mess. So yeah, 3rd John, find that real quick for you. 2nd John, there you go. It's 3rd John chapter 9, 3rd John verse 1, 3rd John chapter 1, 9 to 11. I wrote something to the church, but Diotrephes, who loves to have first place among them, does not receive us. This is why, if I come, I will remind him of the works he is doing, slandering us with malicious words, and he is not satisfied with that. He not only refuses to welcome the brothers himself, but he even stops those who want to do so and expels them from the church. Dear friend, speaking to John, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. The one who does good is of God. The one who does evil has not seen God. Demetrius has a good testimony. So this is where, somebody can emulate from everyone and from the truth itself. And we also testify for him, and that our testimony is true. So that was up to verse 12. And pretty much what we see from there is that this dude, Diotrephes, was a catastrophe in and of himself. He was the type of person that would spread gossip, that would pretty much like make a scene, banish other people. And according to Pastor Johnathan and what we just read, he liked to make everything about himself. Like if there was other people who were getting praise for things, then he all of a sudden would start trying to receive that praise as well. He would try and somehow manipulate and shift things to come back to him. And when Pastor Johnathan was saying all of these things, so many of the students were going, amen. You know, Pastor Johnathan was saying stuff like, there's people like this in the church. And then students, yes, praise God. And I couldn't help but think, not that I'm accusing the students, but I couldn't help but think that I wonder how many of them actually took the time to first go like, wait a minute, does this sound like me? Because we're all so quick to be like, yeah, I'm Demetrius, you know, I'm the guy that, you know, everyone should emulate, or I'm the woman that everyone should emulate. Yeah, you know, I'm the Gaius. I'm Gaius. I'm the guy that, you know, like is always encouraging everyone else and always like, you know, pretty much like being a good example of a Christian to everyone. But would everyone say that about you? That's my question. And I think that we fail to realize that oftentimes. We fail to apply things to ourselves because as soon as we're hearing anything bad, then we see ourselves as the victim. We are always the protagonist in our lives. And that's not always the case. Not everything is about you. You are not always a good person. I'm not saying that you are a bad person either. Like I said, I'm speaking to myself as well. But I see this far too often, especially in Christian circles. This message is for my neighbor. Oh, my friend needs to hear this message. Oh, not even my enemy needs to hear this message. But have you ever stopped to consider that maybe you are someone's enemy? Maybe you are the one who's not forgiving somebody else. Maybe you are the one who's spreading gossip, who is actually, you know, causing the same type of problems, maybe even worse than Diotrephes was. I think his name was Diotrephes. Yeah, Diotrephes. And I don't know, that's just something that I wanted to leave with you guys today to ponder. Are you falsely victimizing yourself? If you find that you are, I think a good practice to just leave you guys with is whenever you find yourself, you know, like listening to a sermon, even as you're watching this video, if you like, oh yeah, I can think of a few people who do this. Have you considered yourself? Are you one of those people who do this? Even before I came to make this video, I was thinking to myself, I always try to think to myself, I'm always remembering what Jesus said in Matthew about, pretty much he said, why do you, hypocrite, go and point out the speck in somebody else's eye when you got a whole splinter, a whole log in your own eye? You know, now that would be very uncomfortable. And I hope that nobody has like a whole toothpick looking thing in their eye. But the point is, Jesus is trying to say like, hey, don't point at people with dirty hands. You know, are you guilty of whatever you are accusing other people of? Stop being so quick to accuse other people of certain things before you accuse yourself of those things. Just imagine a world where if everyone heard certain messages, everyone heard certain sermons, and then they were like, is this me? How can I apply this to myself? And then we all focused on ourselves and worked to become better versions of ourselves. Just imagine how much less chaos there would be. But because we're so focused on everyone else and we're not fixing ourselves, well, then nobody's really getting fixed. Because nobody's listening to anybody else, because everybody else is looking at everybody else. And then you just have this spiral, this cycle of people who just continue to victimize themselves and see themselves as, you know, not like having no room or little room or no need for improvement. Guys, this should not be the case. So I hope that I've really hammered in my message for today. Don't falsely victimize yourself, guys. Don't do that. Stop it. If you are one of those people, stop. Look at yourself, self-introspect. Always realize that there's room to grow. And then before you go pointing your fingers at other people, make sure that you've washed your hands. Because the common saying, whenever you're pointing one finger at someone, you have four more, or technically three more, whatever, pointing right back at you. So yeah, that's the message that I just have for y'all today. I hope that it's really touched someone. And then after you've already self-introspected and made sure that you're not guilty of this, or that if you were, you worked on it, then go ahead and share this video with a friend in a loving manner and be like, hey, I think that this is something that we could learn from. And if you feel like you've already been doing this, cool, kudos to you. But I think that's all for today. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and done.